Well, the one and only vice presidential debate of 2016 is now in the books.
Mike Pence and Tim Kaine met on stage last night. Scott McLean has more on what they talked about and how they did.
After a debate that became far more heated than most would have anticipated.
You are Donald Trump's apprentice. Let me talk about this
Senator,
issue
I think I'm still on my time.
Well, isn't this a discussion?
It appears Republican vice presidential candidate Mike Pence was able to carve out a slightly better performance than his opposition. According to a CNN ORC instant poll, 48% of voters who watched the debate think Pence gave a better performance than Democratic candidate Tim Kaine, compared to 42% who thought Kaine won. This is in stark contrast to how their running mates polled after their first debate last week. Running mates they both spent time defending.
We have a tax code, Senator, that actually is designed to encourage entrepreneurship.
But why won't he release his tax return?
Well, we're answering the question about the business thing.
I do want to come back on this.
She had a private server.
I get to weigh in
that
now.
was
Let me just say
discovered.
this.
While at the same time touting their ticket's strengths to the American people.
A nation without borders is not a nation. Donald Trump is committed to restoring the borders of this nation.
On the economy, there's a fundamental choice for the American electorate. Do you want your hired president in Hillary Clinton, or do you want your fired president in Donald Trump?
Both parties now look ahead to Sunday's next presidential debate in St. Louis.
All right, so who won? Who lost?
Weighing in on the VP debate, political analysts Wendy Patrick, Laura Fink, they both join us this morning. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
You know, I think the candidates both gave us a little bit more than what we all expected. Pence kind of kept it calm and cool. Kaine started off the night sort of being aggressive and really making sure that he was prepared and had those points. Wendy, I'll let you start. Who do you guys think won?
Well, the common knowledge seems to be that Pence won, but let me tell you why that's true. Pence won non-verbally, hands down. In other words, for people that were multitasking, making dinner, switching channels, looking at the set, he looked presidential. He didn't get ruffled. He didn't get rattled, despite the fact that he was just an arm's length away from Kaine, unlike, of course, the presidential debate last Monday when they were separate sides of the stage, far away from the moderator. But I got to tell you, Kaine probably won what I'll call the transcript test. In other words, if you just looked at the content of what both men said, Kaine won that. Now, he also emerged as the interrupter-in-chief because he interrupted so many times. I mean, they've already been counted up. Nonetheless, he really accomplished what he set out to do. It was obvious, he was practiced, but practice makes perfect.
Laura?
Well, I do think that Governor Pence definitely had the edge in terms of calm and collected. I mean, Senator Kaine was definitely ready to go like a horse in the gate. You could see him almost chomping at the bit, really wanting to make his case. But where he did his job, he needed to make sure that we were reminded of the things that are toxic about Donald Trump's campaign, and then hold this very calm, cool, collected running mate accountable for them. So he was quite good at that, whether it was his policies with respect to immigration and deportations of 11 million families, the punishment of abortion, his foreign policy and admiration of Vladimir Putin, or all of the things that really affect voters' judgment on Donald Trump's temperament. Now, what was interesting about Mike Pence was that he really was operating in an asymmetric fashion. He didn't defend Donald Trump against virtually anything that Senator Kaine had to offer. And I think, he really is looking, he didn't want to make a mistake because he wants to run in 2020 if there's a loss here. So he wasn't going to defend Donald Trump insulting women or Mexican immigrants or Judge Curiel, who happens to be from the Hoosier state as well. He was tread very, very carefully. So in that sense, Tim Kaine had him over a barrel. But I think Governor Pence came away with a win for Governor Pence.
Exactly the conversation that everybody was having yesterday. Is like, well, why didn't he defend Trump more? That's his. Is this 2020 thing happening? Is that the new thing everybody's talking about now, that Mike Pence plans to run, and why didn't he defend Trump? Because I was fascinated by that. Wendy?
Well, there's a couple of things I would say to that, Rule. One is because he can't defend Trump on some of the things that he was attacked on. I mean, the language is out there. A couple times he said, oh, Mr. Trump never said that. Then, of course, all the stations are running the reels of him saying exactly that. It's hard in the heat of the moment, just to give these two guys a break. It's hard in the heat of the moment to remember exactly what everybody said on every single occasion. You do the best you can. However, when it comes to maybe the bigger reason that Pence didn't defend Trump, you could argue that it's because he has his own political aspirations. And of course, you know, this is the game. Nobody can blame him for that. He doesn't want to say something that he's going to have to take back a couple years from now. Nonetheless, there actually are some positions that are indefensible and some positions that, you know, Donald Trump probably wished that he hadn't taken, or things that he wished he hadn't said. You'll notice, by the way, Kaine was quick to point out how quickly Hillary took back the basket of deplorables comment once he was attacked on that by Mike Pence. Interestingly, Pence did not do that when Kaine went after him for exactly the same kinds of things that Trump said.
Well, and I'll tell you who, just quickly, I'll tell you who Governor Pence did defend, and that is the Republican Party. It was the Republican greatest hits. It was almost like he was running against running with his imaginary friend, and not with Donald Trump from a policy perspective. I mean, it was the Republican greatest hits of cut taxes, smaller government, strong national defense, and I think that was sort of reassuring to the party base, because it's something that Donald Trump has been unwilling to do. So you know, I think his measure was go after the base, try to bring them home a little bit. But what he didn't do was offer much for the people that are the swing voters, those white suburban women we keep talking about, and some of the other folks, the college-educated voters. He didn't really do a lot in that vein. So in that sense, Tim Kaine really was able to hold the line by prosecuting his case.
But some people will vote for the imaginary friend, and that's why that's important. Is some people are going to vote for, you know, the conservative Supreme Court justices, for lower taxes, more jobs. In other words, for all of the things that the Republican Party stands for, without voting for Donald Trump. So that probably was a good strategy to take.
Maybe.
Exactly what I was going to ask. Did Pence do the right thing? Is this what's going to get those voters that maybe saw what Trump has done in the past week, and maybe this rescued Trump for a hot second? That's maybe what Pence did?
Well, he needed to stop the bleeding, I think, first of all. And I think, you know, Laura would probably agree with that, is that, you know, Trump had a terrible week. Everybody's been talking about, you know, the Twitter war with the Miss Universe, and nobody was talking about the issues. Pence really brought us back into the lane we're supposed to be in, talking about the upcoming presidential election, the issues that matter to voters. Now, one can only hope that Trump takes a lesson from what he saw last night. We know he watched because he was tweeting throughout the whole debate. So it's not a matter of, well, can we get him to sit down and watch what Pence did? If Trump could show a little more of that on Sunday night, I think the ratings will be much better for him.
There you go. I thought Elaine Quijano also did a nice job. Wendy Patrick, Laura Fink, thank you, ladies.
All right. Thanks, Raul. Thanks, Heather.
Time right now, 7:15. We want to get you caught up on some other big stories with a look at today's front pages.
Let's go ahead and start with the LA Times. Police released video from a deadly police officer shooting of a teenager. In it, you can see 18-year-old Carnell Snell Jr. holding what looks like a gun. He then hides the object and runs from the camera. Authorities say officers opened fire when Snell pulled out that gun.
On the cover of the Jersey Journal, federal investigators say the train that crashed in Hoboken was traveling 3 times faster than it should have been at that moment. The speed limit in the area is 10 miles an hour. 1 woman was killed, more than 100 injured. Officials recently recovered 2 more black boxes from all that rubble.
And on the front page of the Oklahoman, Oklahoma's highest court struck down a law imposing restrictions on abortion providers. The law would have set new criminal penalties for providers who violate abortion-related statutes, as well as people who help minors without parental consent. The Oklahoma justices say the law imposed on unconstitutional restriction of a woman's right to have an abortion. And if you want to receive breaking news alerts, download the Fox 5 app. It's free for iPhones and Androids. For more information, go to your app store.